What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? This is Sean from 4GLU, 4 Geeks Like You. You're now tuned into my review of the Rurouni Kenshin live action film. I'd like to start off by saying that I'm a huge fan of the Rurouni Kenshin manga and anime series, so you're going to be getting a true review from me, unbiased, not overhyped, just straightforward. Now, let's start off with the review. The movie starts off with Batotsu the Manslayer, aka Kenshin, participating in the Battle of Toba Fushimi. Now, he's massacring people on the battlefield, and it looks so awesome, by the way. Again, the choreography in this film looks really awesome when they're fighting. Really awesome, really realistic, and it doesn't take away from the, the realism of this film. Now, on the other side of the battlefield, you have Hajime Saito, who is a part of the Shinsengumi at the time, and he's just hacking away at, soldiers, the imperialist soldiers who come running in his direction. Now, he's looking for the Manslayer because he wants to kill Kenshin. Obviously, I mean, Kenshin's a badass at this time, and Shinsengumi supposedly stand for right. So, you're looking to take down this criminal. At the end of the day, he doesn't get to do that, and Kenshin's imperialist forces, or the team, the side that he's on, actually win. So the film jumps about a decade, and Kenshin no longer walks around with the title of Batotsu the Manslayer. He actually goes by Himura Kenshin. He arrives in Tokyo, where he meets Kaoru Kamiya. Now, Kaoru Kamiya in the anime and in the movie, actually owns a kendo school that was left by her father, who passed away. The only difference between the anime and the film is that in the anime, she didn't have any real students at the time, but in the film, her only student is Yahiko. And as you know, Yahiko was not an original student of hers when the series started, but nevertheless, he is in the film. Now, Kaoru, Kenshin, and Yahiko are very much like their anime counterparts. They look really good. Yahiko looks as real as you can get. They're not going to look just like their anime counterparts, but they do look the part and they play the role exceptionally well. The only thing that I have to say about Kaoru and Yahiko's characters is that they're a little bit undeveloped. No real backstory on these characters for someone who's coming into the film not knowing about the anime or the manga. Not much is said about these two characters, which is sort of a downfall as far as I'm concerned with the story, especially when you're introducing these characters. Say a little bit about them. All we know from Yahiko, as far as the film is concerned, is that he wants to be a samurai, or he considers himself a samurai. We know that Miss Kaoru owns a kendo school, but not much else. But moving forward, Takeda, Kanryu, and Megumi. Now, this film focuses on the first season of the anime. So Takeda Kanryu is an opium dealer. He's basically in control of organized crime. He's very wealthy, and he's pretty much a dick. He has Megumi under his watchful eye, and she's an opium dealer. Now, she comes from a family of healers or doctors, so she's really good at what she does, at playing both sides of the field. She can heal you and she can kill you. It's that real. These two characters played their parts really good. I did like Megumi's character, even though she wasn't in the film as much, even though the film was basically around her. There was only but so much you can do with that character and that storyline without it ending so quick. Takeda's character I really liked in the film. You could always tell that he was sort of menacing, kind of pompous and cocky, feeling that he had the money so he can throw it in. Even there was a scene where he tried to hire Kenshin, and that didn't turn out so well, but it was really cool to see these characters again come, transition from anime to live action. And I had no problems with watching Takeda and Megumi make that transition. Now, moving forward, Takeda had hired hands, and there are two hired hands that really didn't matter, but there's one that did, and that was Udo Jinye. Now, Udo Jinye in the anime is someone who Kenshin knew about in the past. In the film, they really don't know each other. Jinye does know of Kenshin, but Kenshin and him have never crossed paths in the past. And you know, I will say that Jinye's character in this film is really menacing. Like, you can tell that this guy is badass, and he will kill you, as he did when Megumi escaped and she went into the police department, and he went in there and basically literally killed every police officer inside that department. And watching that scene was really cool, because he actually used one of his techniques, which he brings out the fear inside you, and it puts you in a stasis mode where you can't move and you're left open to be killed. And he actually caught this one guy with this with that technique, and slowly, you know, while talking to the guy, slit his throat. And it was like, wow, like, this is really this is really a real guy that you don't want to fuck with. And I really like this character, because in the anime he wasn't really developed in that manner. Here he was. So it's sort of like, I'm sort of on both sides, because in the anime he wasn't with Takeda. He wasn't one of Takeda's men. Actually, Aoshi Shinomori was, and his band of ninjas were the hired hands for Takeda. But here it was Udo Jinye and two other assassins that were used. I think I would have liked to see more of Aoshi Shinomori and his band of ninjas, rather than Udo Jinye and the other two henchmen, because Udo Jinye it's like he could have had his own movie. I felt like, you know, even though he was the background antagonist, I felt that he would have stood out more in a movie, and you could have added on another storyline, because that character was just that badass. But nevertheless, moving forward, Udo Jinye was freaking awesome. The last character, or I actually have three more characters I want to speak about, and that's Sanosuke. Sanosuke definitely was a real cool character. He was put in here to basically, well, towards the end, he was really humorous. There was a fight scene that he had within the break-in of the mansion. That's where him and Kenshin came in to save Megumi, which was a freaking awesome scene. But yeah, Sanosuke, I did like the way his transition from anime to live action. His sword wasn't like over exaggerated. You know, it didn't have to be CGI'd. It was a long sword. It was a big sword, but it looked real, as if, you know, like you said, you know, this sword was used to kill horses. You know, so this sword was realistic. You know, there were scenes where he was fighting at the mansion where it looked like he had to struggle to move it. So there was a lot of realism involved in the weapons and in the fight scenes. So it didn't look like these guys were overpowered. That's one thing I liked about Sanosuke, is that they didn't overhype this character. I mean, overpower him and make him seem like, you know, these characters are still in the anime. You know, him and Kenshin are still in the anime. This is a real world, so you have to fight realistically, and that's what they did. Sanosuke was a really cool character. There was a very funny fight scene that he had within the mansion that really had me cracking up. But all in all, I did like his transition to live action. Hajime Saito, I mentioned him earlier, who was a former member of the Shinsengumi, now works for the Magi government. In the film, he was more of a calm, collective kind of character, whereas in the anime and in the manga, he was kind of evil and pretty much a dick, man, especially to Kenshin and Sanosuke. We didn't really get to see his strength, because Hajime is a badass character. He is very strategic, but he's a badass character, and we really didn't get to see much of what he could do in the film. I didn't like that at all, you know, especially since he's one of my favorite characters in this series. But you know, as for somebody who never saw the anime and the manga, I think you wouldn't have any issue watching this character on screen, because you'd just be like, well, that guy is pretty cool. Oh, he's a cop. All right. But as for someone watching the anime and reading the manga, you would probably be like, oh, well, that's not the Hajime I remember. There was another character that was thrown in there, which was Yamagata, and he's like a high-up official of the Magi government, and he's also Saito's, or Hajime's superior. He was just thrown in there for like 2 minutes, and I was like, well, why are they throwing in these characters? You know, that was my main gripe with this film, is that everything was like jam-packed inside one season, and it was like, inside one film. And it was like, like you have all these characters that you could have saved for another film. Or if you were going to add these characters in, then give them some, some background, explain who they are, explain why they're here, explain why they have grudges against Kenshin. Not much of that was said, even though why Hajime and Kenshin sort of had a grudge. It's because they were on opposing sides during the Battle of Toba-Fushimi. But, again, like, a lot of these characters, like, again, I can name Yahiko, Hajime, Yamagata. These characters were unnecessary if you weren't going to really explain who they are and, like, a couple of things about their background. So again, to me, the film had some parts where it just felt too jam-packed and a little bit too rushed. But, all in all, it was a great film. The fighting was really superb. And at the end of the day, I'm going to give this film an 8.5 out of 10 stars. Based on the fighting alone, the story was sort of a letdown to me because, it was all jam-packed. There weren't any really, it didn't feel like Kaoru and Kenshin really had a bond or a growing bond until the very last few minutes of the film. And I would have liked to have seen more of Hajime as his anime counterpart, with the characteristics and the mentality of that character that we've seen in the anime, and a little bit more of Yahiko, and even a little bit more of Yamagata. These are really strong and heavy characters, and not physically strong as far as Yamagata is concerned, but these are characters that are a part of the main plot of the film. Yamagata was even in the Kenshin movie, not the live action one, but the actually animated movie. He was in there. So, like, these characters were in there. It was just like too many characters, and they were like, yeah, let's just throw in all these characters and mix them in, and then if it melds together, it melds together. If it doesn't, then it doesn't. And for me, at some points, it just didn't. So yeah, 8.5 out of 10 stars for me. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, I love the film. I love the fighting. My favorite scene out of this whole movie would have to be when they Sanosuke and Kenshin actually attacked the mansion. That was really really good, especially when the music came into play. All of that melded together, and it made the scene that much more epic. So, yeah, I mean, if you haven't seen the anime or haven't read the manga and you want to see this film, then you can definitely check it out. It's not going to really destroy anything for you or take away anything from you if you haven't seen it. You're going to like it, and you're probably going to want to step into watching the anime, or even might want to read the manga. But if you have seen the anime and manga, you might feel a little bit like, oh, wow, well, that didn't happen, or that didn't melt together, or why weren't these characters explained a little bit more? That's my main thing, is that a lot of characters weren't developed correctly or as much as I would have preferred them to be, especially when you're watching it with someone who doesn't know anything about it. They would just be like, oh, well, that character's there, well, I guess they're not important, when they really are very important. So yeah, I did like the film, 8.5 out of me, and I would like to throw in one more thing. I really give them kudos for throwing in the scene where Kenshin actually got the first scar across his face. Now, they didn't show how it was completed, but if you've seen Samurai X, then you know that Tomoe actually completed the scar when he accidentally killed her, trying to kill her father. So they showed the scene where he actually killed her husband, and the husband actually slashed him and gave him that scar. And he kept saying, I don't know, I don't want to die, I want to keep fighting. That was really cool, man. So when I saw that, I was like, wow, like, they actually threw that in. That's really good. So, yeah, 8.5 out of me. And if you guys like the film, then comment below. If you didn't like the film, then comment below too. And again, this is Sean from 4GLU, 4 Geeks Like You. Stay tuned for more reviews, and subscribe to this channel. We definitely would like to have you here. We definitely would like to bring you guys more reviews. So stay tuned, and we'll see you later.